Christmas and a Happy New Year. This is episode 10 of the Fanema Movie Podcast. We took a slight, let's call it a holiday break, to handle some various things going on. But we're back. We have a pretty big episode today. It's kind of reviewing 2018 as a whole. We got our top 10 of the year in order. We're going to go through some honorable mentions, talk about some of our favorite scores and soundtracks from the year. And there's no person I'd rather share this foldable table with than you, sir. How you doing, G?
Oh, I'm ready. I've been working on this list for a good
10 minutes.
Yeah, for a good 10 minutes.
Oh, it's really nice. You know, I lost sleep over this list. I don't even know that.
Oh, I was there.
And I don't think that sounds kind of weird. I'm gonna be honest, but to be clear, he just saw me stressing.
It's 2019, man.
Yeah, I guess so. But I did actually lose sleep over this. And you know what? Tomorrow it might be different. In a week it might be different. But as of today, I got my list in order. It's all ready to go. And so what I think we're going to do first off, I'd like to preface this by saying, as the year, always, you know, we live in a town where we don't necessarily get all of the releases when they release in like LA or Chicago or New York. And there are a couple titles that I missed because they had a very short release window here, or they're still coming out, or I just haven't gotten to go to the theater because, you know, holiday stuff, moving, all that kind of good stuff. So there are some we both have not seen that may very well end up in our top list had we seen them. For me, I have movies like Leave No Trace I haven't seen. Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. Boy Erased. What was the other one with Melissa McCarthy?
Melissa McCarthy?
Yeah, Melissa McCarthy. Oh, what's it called? Anyways, that movie I haven't seen either. It's a true story.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's about what I've got for my movies I didn't see that I was trying to. What do you got?
For me, my list was Green Book. I didn't get to see Green Book. I didn't get the chance. And this one is probably going to create quite the reaction, but I didn't get to see Mission Impossible Fallout.
Rip my eyes out.
And I deeply regret the fact that I could not experience that in IMAX, but that's
it was fantastic.
Yeah, that's one that I missed. And then one that I also missed is Death of Stalin. I heard it's a very on
Obama's top 10 of the year as well.
Yeah, I've heard it was a very brilliant comedy. So I'm definitely going to want to check that out. Blind Spotting is another one.
Another great one. I just watched it again last night.
Yeah, I've heard great things about that one, and I'm looking forward to checking that one out.
Yeah.
And then Roma. I didn't get a chance to see that one. I heard it's a very beautiful movie.
It's like a master work, you know, in terms of the filmmaking art.
I also didn't get to see Benicio del Toro do his thing in Sicario, which I know is and Josh Brolin.
I think you're just trying to hurt my feelings at this point.
And then
and breakout star Isabella Moner.
Oh yes.
Yep.
And then finally, I didn't get to see my boy Adam Driver.
Oh, you didn't see Black Klansman.
Yeah, and so those are the movies that I didn't get to, and also the ones that Eli mentioned, you know, with Leave No Trace and the movie with
Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot.
Yeah, with Joaquin Phoenix.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, and I've heard things about those two movies, and unfortunately I didn't get to see them this year, but thought I should let everyone know that.
Yep. So what I think we're gonna do here is the first thing we are gonna go through our top 10, kind of going back and forth. But I also think that we're gonna go through that. And then we're just gonna sort of highlight our year and highlight things that we loved from the year of film. I don't like to do worst lists or anything. If you want, I'll throw in my most disappointing film of the year real quick, and that is probably gonna be The Predator, just because I'm a pretty big, you know, I love sci-fi, fantasy. Shane Black is one of my favorite. I love when he writes these kind of movies. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, The Nice Guys, two of my favorite, you know, comedies of all time. And I was pumped to hear him doing this, and it fell really flat. So that was a real big disappointment. Do you have any films that really disappointed you this year? Because there's films certainly that I just thought were bad, but a lot of them I kind of expected, you know?
Yeah, no, I don't think for me personally, I've sort of walked into every movie and then, you know,
came out with a smile on the other side, more or less.
Yeah, I guess more or less, yeah, because, you know, there wasn't a movie where I've had a certain expectation for and then for it to fall under it, so, which would, for me, be categorized under a disappointing movie, but
I agree.
there were certainly films that have exceeded my expectations, which we'll get to eventually.
Yeah, we're gonna get to those. So I guess we might as well just kick it off. We're gonna go through the top 10 list right now. Top 10 of 2018. That means it doesn't matter if we saw it. It has to have been released in this year. So I saw movies that I loved. I saw what did I see? I saw plenty of movies for the first time this year that are old. This is only 2018 releases. So I'm gonna kick it off.
Are we doing honorable mentions first, or?
That's a good idea, actually. So first, we will do our honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just go ahead and highlight 3 honorable mentions for myself. I have plenty more.
Yeah.
But so first off, on my honorable mentions, I want to shout out, the death. No, that's on. Okay, I got the wrong list here. I'm gonna shout out Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, this is a movie that we saw recently. We got to go to that early screening. It was a great experience. And I love the film. And I thought coming out, I'm like, man, that might be, one of my top 5 films of the year. Until I started putting together my list, and I just couldn't fit it in there. I think that it's the best animated feature of the year by far. I think that it has animation that we've never seen before. It pioneers the genre, and I think that it should win the best animated feature at the Oscars. For whatever reason, though, I don't know why. I love it. That's a movie I can watch every day. It just didn't make the list. And to preface this, I saw well over, I don't know, I saw like 200 movies this year, 180. I don't know if you include all the streaming and.
Yeah,
it was like 220 movies. So I mean, when you think about it, maybe it's 11, maybe it's 12. That's still really high.
Yeah, it just got bumped off.
Yeah. What do you got?
For me, one of my honorable mentions is Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, that may be on my list.
Yeah, it's an honorable mention of mine. I forget. Did we see it in IMAX?
Yep. Nope.
I think we did.
Yes, we did. Because remember, we were going to see another movie in IMAX, and this guy came in all hyped for it.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, "Where's Bohemian Rhapsody in IMAX?" And they're like, "It was at 3:00."
Oh yeah, wait.
And
wasn't that the one where they confused, like they put in the Venom?
Yeah.
And then we had to go out and tell them, like, "Oh, you got the wrong movie in there."
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I did get to see this movie in IMAX, and I was blown away by the spectacle that was put on the screen, and definitely
Rami Malek.
Yeah, Rami Malek. I've heard so many things about him and his portrayal of Queen himself.
Queen himself?
What was this?
Freddie.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury. Oh, I just blanked. But yeah, like it was something that I didn't expect, and I just loved how seeing it, and especially basically the last
20 minutes.
Yeah, the last 20 minutes of that movie.
Yeah, I'll get into that more as it's
was
maybe somewhere high on my list.
Yeah, ended up on my honorable mentions.
Next up on my honorable mentions, I have a movie that I don't think more than a handful of people saw, and that would be Juliet Naked. It's a small movie with Rose Byrne, Chris O'Dowd, and Ethan Hawke. A lot of music in it, but I definitely wouldn't call it a musical. I just thought it was really touching. It just touched me when I saw it. I loved the movie, so I went back a couple times to see it again. Bought it, of course. And I don't think it's like, the best movie of the year or anything like that, but it's just a movie that I find infinitely rewatchable. Rose Byrne sort of has this, Haley Steinfeld always sort of has that charm in all of her movies. I feel the same thing with Rose Byrne. I want her to keep doing movies like this. She doesn't have to go do anything else. I just want to see her do, The Internship. Not a great movie, but I'll watch it every day because of Rose Byrne.
Yeah.
And, Owen Wilson and all that. But I just found it, it's just heartwarming, I guess. And it was timely, well acted, great soundtrack on it, performed by Ethan Hawke, which is pretty wild. And yeah, Juliet Naked, if you have not checked it out, give it a watch and let me know what you think.
Great. And I think it's a rom-com, wouldn't you say?
I would say it's a rom-dram. I mean, it's got a little comedy in it for sure, but I really don't want to put this into the comedy, like a rom-com. I think of like Hitch. I think of Wedding Crashers, and I just don't. I think that there's too many dramatic scenes to really classify it as a rom-com, but I guess if you have to, maybe it fits in there.
Yeah, maybe it's because I'm just thinking about Chris O'Dowd too much and all those comedic times. But yeah, it's funny you should mention Juliet Naked because it's also in my honorable mentions.
Hey, nice.
And it's there, for the exact same things that you've said and mentioned, Rose Byrne, Chris O'Dowd, Ethan Hawke. Soundtrack was great. Just the feel of the movie. I just remember sitting in that theater and I was very much invested in the characters, which I think is a big thing for me. When a movie can just really have me invest in the characters, it'll all automatically just
I also think that it's a story that we're not necessarily because a lot of times in these romance films you get the same thing. And I think that they give us kind of new characters, and they give us a new way for them to kind of come together. And I don't know. I just found it fresh. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So going into my last honorable mention, there's so many I want to plug here, but the one that I think has gotten the least love out of all the ones I have, and the one that hurt me the most not to have it on my top 10, is Overlord. Overlord, the sci-fi war action horror pick put out by Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams produced, and this thing is it's a party, man. This thing is crazy. We both came out, I remember, talking about how it would be awesome if this was like a video game, it's just a great blend. It's super fun. If you watch the trailer, it really I think that it supplies scares, it supplies hard-hitting action. The war element is great when it opens up to the war without getting into the supernatural kind of stuff yet. It's awesome, just as a war film. So some awesome. We got I forget his name, but Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's kid. He's in it. He's really good.
Oh yeah.
He plays the sergeant or the explosives expert.
Yeah.
It's just, dude, I just think it was one of the most kick-ass movies of the year.
Yeah, it was just the experience of seeing it in IMAX.
IMAX also, once again.
That opening.
It hits hard, man.
Yeah. And
great direction, too.
Yeah, you just get a lot of these blends from different movies, and I just love the way you put it and suggesting that it's like, it gave you we talked about it as if it's like, a video game. Like if this is the type of, effort that was putting into like video game franchise movies or something.
Yeah.
Just imagining
it would be great, man. And now I believe the director of Overlord is going to go do a Flash Gordon movie. We'll see how that goes. But I mean, I'm not going to count him out. This movie is awesome. I don't know how else to put it. I think it's not for the squeamish, for sure. I don't think it's overly gory necessarily, but it'll get you.
Yeah.
And now, G, your last honorable mention. What do we got?
Okay, for me, I would have to put, I think, Aquaman.
Oh, yeah, I love Aquaman.
Yeah, and just in the sense of, I've just been thinking lately of, what DC's been doing, and, we've had this discussion with, like, DC and, the way they're headed, the direction they're headed, and with all these studio executives, putting their hands on to creative control into these movies. But walking out of Aquaman, I was blown away. I was like, the thing is, it's like with these DC movies, I walk in differently than I do with like a Marvel movie. Because
that's just because of track record and consistency.
Track record and consistency. And I know that, I don't know what to expect of the tone sometimes. Because we talked about that. Because sometimes with DC, as you've mentioned before, they can play around a little bit more, and they can have darker themes and maybe some,
you can have a
darker depictions and stuff like that. And so seeing Aquaman, and then especially seeing, the performances with Jason Momoa, and, he's just such a likable guy. He's charismatic. They worked around, his qualities and built the character around him. Patrick Wilson, I was just so I loved every second of him on the screen.
As always.
Yeah, and Amber Heard doing her thing.
Him and James Wan are like, it's like, it's one of those great director-actor pairings that you just get excited no matter what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, you have Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, James Wan and and Patrick Wilson. These things, he always delivers something extra to a character that wouldn't necessarily be there without him, He always brings more, and that's something I really appreciate about Patrick Wilson. especially in this film.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely one of my most fun times at the theater.
Yeah.
We saw it a couple times.
It's made a lot of money.
Made a lot of money. It may actually get to $1 billion.
Yeah. Got a lot.
And I think that Aquaman really opens the door for DC and kind of opens it all up because they did whatever they wanted. James Wan did not pull any punches.
Mm-hmm.
He threw sea monsters in there. I mean, we were fighting in a Coliseum, gladiator style. They were flying boats. They were, they were jumping into deserts. It's
yeah.
Everything's on the table.
Yeah, and James Wan did, his directing and the way he the cinematography and
there's a great scene on a boat.
Yeah.
Horrific type scene that plays right into his wheelhouse.
Exactly. And
fantastic.
Yeah, and so just seeing that movie, it really exceeded my expectations, and as we have mentioned before, it just happened to get bumped out, out of the top 10 list just because there were 10 other movies that came out.
It's hard, man. This list, like I said, I was looking over my my list of the last 2 years, and they're totally different order now. Well, last year at least, I got some movies in different orders. Even in the year before, I mean, my top couple. This year was just harder for me to rank and to list for whatever reason. It was difficult the other years, but at least the other years, I had like my top 4 solidified. Like these are without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the case this year. So without further ado, we're gonna get into our top 10 of 2018. You want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. To start off, I think we're starting at 10.
Yeah.
All right. For me, number 10, I would have to put Bumblebee.
Bumblebee.
I
coming at you.
Yeah, I had to squeeze that into my my top 10 for a major reason. Well, one, it's I just love the movie and all the aspects of it. The bare bones of it, the story, the characters, the actors, all portraying the characters really well.
Mm-hmm.
And soundtrack, I think we've talked about the soundtrack as
it's
being
fantastic.
The way they used it and the way they utilized it with his Bumblebee's voice and finding his voice.
Yeah, they gave more to it because they did a similar thing in the Bayformers movie, but they didn't use it they just like, oh yeah, he talks with the radio, and they used it in a similar way, but they didn't ever make that mean something, In this movie it meant something.
Exactly.
There's a big narrative through line with the character Charlie Watson, who Haley Steinfeld plays, and Bumblebee. It was a connection they had, and it related to her and him both. I thought this was a Spielberg-esque coming of age film.
Oh yeah, he had his hands in it. He produced it, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's the check produced. He probably showed up for lunch one day. But the thing is, I always said that if I could, one of my movie wishes, was that Spielberg could direct a Transformers reboot. And the next best thing right now is Travis Knight.
Yeah.
He proved that he can make lovable characters, great story, great action in a stop-motion film, Kubo and the Two Strings, which is the only animated film to make any of my top 10 lists of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I think that Travis Knight was pretty much integral to why this film works.
Yeah, and just the fact that, we've seen a string of, Transformer movies, for who knows how many years. Like, how many of them are there? Like 6, 7? 5, 6 or something like that?
I don't know. Too many.
And, we still have a hard time remembering, like, the names of them and, like, what's going on in some of them.
Yeah, you watch the action, you can't tell what's going on. It's just a cluster of moving parts.
Yeah, and then just to see Travis Knight, and then we've mentioned this before too, that Travis Knight is such a huge fan of the Transformers, and he decided to go first generation, and then design Bumblebee to look,
simplistic.
Yeah, simple, which people, immediately loved, and and I love that point that, he paid attention to the characters, and he knows that's really important. And as I've mentioned before, investment in the characters is something that's big for me, and particularly with Bumblebee's eyes, we talked about that too, and how he is able to, utilize his eyes to allow people to connect with Bumblebee more, and that's a huge point that I just come across right now, that in the Bay films that you just saw like just a cluster of metal and all this stuff happening, and then
rapid cuts.
Yeah.
Just you can't really tell what's going on. Is that an Autobot? Is that a Decepticon?
yeah,
Is that just a soda machine? Is it the beat pill?
exactly. So historically, this movie just really moved me, and I loved it. And
And yeah, we got Cybertron.
Oh, yeah.
I've said this many times to many people, and I'll say it again. I think that the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee is the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee are better than any sequence Michael Bay directed in any of the Transformers films.
Yeah, then I would.
It's fantastic.
I would agree with that.
All right, so going on to my top 10. My number 10 is what I think is one of the smartest comedies I've probably ever seen, and definitely of the last few years, and that is none other than The Death of Stalin. Death of Stalin is, it's kind of playing fun at when Stalin died, and everybody's in this power struggle to sort of take his place, and it's just, you got Steve Buscemi, who I think is fantastic. The humor they're playing on, they play on a lot, and the cool thing is, I didn't know. I mean, I know about it from going to school, history class, all that, but I'm not that big of a history guy, to be honest.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I knew enough that when you watch the movie, it's just hard for me. I don't want to give too much away, and I haven't seen it actually since when I saw it in March.
Oh yeah.
But the humor is just so it's smart, and it's witty, but it's not just. I mean, there's dumb moments, but even those moments, I mean, they just make you laugh. I was like, if I wasn't laughing out loud, I was smiling pretty much the entire movie. Yeah, and I don't want to brag or anything, but it's also on Obama's top 10 of the year. I'm just saying, good taste.
Wasn't Colin Farrell in this one too?
Colin Farrell was not in this one.
Steve Buscemi?
Steve Buscemi, man.
Mm,
Let me look real quick, because there's a pretty. I just want to give a shout out to somebody. Let's see. Death of. Yes, Steve Buscemi, Simon Russell Beale, Jeffrey Tambor, Andrea Riseborough, directed by Armando Iannucci, written by him as well. It's just, dude, you gotta check it out. It's really something special. Even the way it opens, especially if you're into history, you'll love this movie.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely. It was in my honorable mentions, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah,
sometime soon.
very limited release. So I mean, I'm not faulting anyone for not getting to see it. Very little marketing, but it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So then, what do you got on number 9?
All right, for me, number 9. It's none other than A Quiet Place.
Oh, number 9. It is also on my list.
It is on your list.
It is on my list.
But yeah. How should we do this? I think I'll just say my spiel.
Yeah,
for
it's
the movie.
pretty. It might be pretty high on my list.
Yeah, and then I'll let you.
You can say your thing.
But yeah, for me, A Quiet Place. Didn't know what to expect with this one. John Krasinski's directorial debut, working with Emily Blunt.
What about Bird Box? Sorry, go ahead.
Anyways, he was working with Emily Blunt and his wife, and just to see this dynamic and on screen, I was just excited for. I always love watching those type of movies where real life couples work together and seeing.
It doesn't always work.
So yeah, there are many times where it doesn't
McCarthy
work.
has made tons of terrible movies with her husband.
Oh yes.
Kate Beckinsale with Len Wiseman in the Underworld movies, which I unapologetically love, are not good. But there are times when it works fantastic, like A Quiet Place, like The Light Between Oceans.
Oh yes, Light Between Oceans. But yeah, with A Quiet Place, for me it was the trailer. Just seeing the trailer and the tension that the trailer immediately brought. I was immediately invested, and I love horror. I love all the psychological thrillers. Those type of genres I'm all for, and so I was immediately sold on A Quiet Place. And
I'm with you there, pal.
Yeah, walking into that movie, it exceeded and it delivered, and it exceeded my expectations in the sense of what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot of tension because this was a movie about they sort of tell you a little bit about the plot, and they have to keep quiet.
Yeah,
but they don't reveal too much. They just keep.
They just kind of. I would say they just they let you know the rules. They don't explain what's going on or anything.
Yeah.
They just put the rules in place.
Mm-hmm.
You can't talk. They're in a bad situation because they got a toddler. They got children.
A baby on the way.
And no, not in the beginning.
Oh, not in the beginning? I thought it was.
No.
I thought that was always a thing.
Nope.
Oh, well, yeah. So they have children, and then, just watching, and then, going back and watching interviews and seeing, more the themes that would come out of, like, family and, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it had to be on my list, and it was a very unique film, and I couldn't leave that in anywhere else. But yeah, A Quiet Place, number 9 from me.
Random, but you know what I just noticed looking at my list? The top 4 films on my list were also my top 4 favorite trailers from the year.
Oh,
This is a random thing.
Oh, well, I'm excited to see.
Shout out to whoever cut those trailers because I liked them.
All right.
So I guess I'm going to number 8 on my list.
Did you or number 9?
Oh, number 9.
Yeah, because I
Thank
started
you,
off.
sir.
Yeah, you're number 9.
Yep. So number 9 on my list is a movie I saw very early in the year, and it is. It was my. I made it. I was saying yesterday how it was my favorite movie of the year when I saw it in February until I saw something else in March.
Oh yeah.
That didn't last long. But that's none other than Annihilation.
Ooh.
I think that this also on Obama's top 10 list. I just want to say, so Barack, if you want to go catch a flick, just email me.
All right, yeah.
I'll give you my number.
Mm-hmm.
Annihilation is I would call it, I did write a review for it on fanema.com if you want to check that out. Full length review. But I would say it is definitely a high concept sci-fi thriller.
Oh.
Directed by the auteur Alex Garland.
Oh yes.
Written and directed. This
Machina?
thing is fantastic to like. Okay, so the color palette is all over. But it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So this film is both beautiful and terrifying, which I love. I love when a film can make me awe at the spectacle of the filmmaking, yet terrified at the execution and what's going on in the film. And I mean, this film is kind of like a big analogy for something. You can watch that as you go, but I think that the story is incredibly smart. The acting, Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson, Benedict Wong, Oscar Isaac, who had a cool story about it, saying that they were both shooting at Pinewood, and he would go between while shooting each other, which is crazy because his character in Annihilation is kind of twisted at points.
Oh, yeah.
Going from that to Poe Dameron is interesting. But yeah, great cast. Gina Rodriguez, pretty much led by female leads. And I think each one of them delivered. I just found it fascinating. Once it kind of clicked in my head what was going on, and I'm not going to spoil that here, but once it clicked, and I love the movie anyways, it just got like 3 times better. I was just, this is the kind of movie that got me wanting to make, films of my own. This is the kind of movie that I love to watch when I'm writing. It's inspirational. And I just think that this has been kind of overlooked once we get to the Academy Awards. And I wish it would get some more love. I know it came out early in the year, but Alex Garland, he deserves a lot of praise for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of great practical effects that I didn't know were practical until I saw some interviews. But some great stuff in there. So, that's my number 9, Annihilation. What about you? What do you got for number 8?
Yes, my number 8 is it's a comedy. It's a comedy that I had a great time
I know
with.
what it is.
And it's Game Night.
Game Night.
I
wanted to put that on the list so bad.
I had to add that to my list. I just remember I didn't get a chance to see this one in theaters,
was it Tommy Lee Jones?
Oh, yeah, you had to see this movie to get that reference. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to see this in theaters, but I did end up seeing it with you here at your place, and I was just 100% invested in this movie. I loved every second of it.
Filmmaking wise too. Yeah. It's crazy because not only does it have great jokes, great humor, but something I very distinctly remember you commenting on while we were watching was that you were so impressed by the camera work.
Yeah. I didn't know, and I just wish I knew who directed it, Don't
worry, I got you.
But seeing this movie, I was just like laughing and having a good time the entire time. And at the same time, like you mentioned, the camera work, the cinematography with this movie, the way it was shot, I wasn't really expecting that, I don't really prepare for that.
I would say one of the best, like some of the best car sequences of the year.
Yeah,
chase sequences. Mm-hmm. That sequence specifically with the egg in the house.
Oh yeah, I can. Like, it just makes me want to watch it again. I just loved every second of it. I just,
star-studded cast too.
Jason Bateman, Rachel McAdams.
One of my personal favorites, Kyle Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
Lamorne Morris from New Girl, who I find
love him.
Incredibly funny.
Yeah, and I just love especially the story, the concept of this movie.
Jesse Plemons, the neighbor.
Yeah. His character was. Yeah, I was just loving his character, and just all the comedy and the turns this movie takes, and Kyle Chandler doing his thing, and I just had a really good time, and I always love comedies as well, just to have a good laugh here and there.
And the funny thing is that this was directed by John Francis Daley, who his only feature credit besides this is Vacation, which was not good. Not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's why I was a little nervous. And damn, when I went to see this movie, I was floored, man.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie that I could see myself popping in every now and then. That's why it cracks my top 10 and lands in my number 8.
So my number 7. I hope you're ready for this, man.
What about you? Is it your number 8?
My number 8. I hope you're ready for this, man.
What is this one? What are we looking at?
So number 8. Honestly, my list gets really tricky at this point, because anything from 8 to 1, I'll say 8 to 3, they could be switched. My 3 could have been my 8. My 8 could have been my 2. For a while, I thought my 8 was my 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because the return of the GOAT happened this March. This last March, the genius, the greatest of all time, Steven Spielberg made his triumphant return, directing Ready Player One. The man is in his near 80 years old, directing this brilliant film. It's sci-fi, it's adventure, it's action, it's beautiful, it's coming of age, it's everything that made me fall in love with Steven Spielberg put into a modernized film. He's directing on VR headsets, composing shots, doing things that I'm not even sure I'm young, I'm 23. This is crazy stuff. And he's near 80, composing shots on a VR headset, and that blows me away. They have a great documentary on the Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic seeing him. He's like a little kid, on the set still, after he's made, so many films, 50 plus films. He still loves the craft,
mm-hmm.
and he's still learning, and he's still, so full of life. And I think that you can definitely see that in this film. I think a lot of his recent films, they're very, I would say very serious dramas. You got The Post, Bridge of Spies, Lincoln, things like that. And he had the BFG, which I didn't really enjoy that much, but I think it's good for kids. I don't think it's a bad film, but I think this really got Spielberg back to blockbuster roots. The things like, the Jaws, the Jurassic Parks, things of that nature. He put together a great young cast. Ty Sheridan, Olivia Cook, one of my favorite actors working, Ben Mendelsohn, Lena Waithe, T.J. Miller, Simon Pegg, Mark Rylance, the list goes on. And I think that, so I haven't read the book, but I know a lot of people who have. My brother Miguel, it's his favorite book of all time, I think. And he loves it. And he was going through with, how this is such a departure from the book.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that a lot of the book readers still loved it, which is definitely hard to do. And I just thought it's fantastic. There's a scene, a sequence where they recreate The Shining.
Here we go.
Which I think, if you haven't seen The Shining, I'm sorry, it's a little inside baseball, but if you have seen The Shining, you geek out. I was losing it.
Oh.
This is still, I believe, my favorite IMAX experience of the year, maybe, because there's an appearance from Gundam that made me lose my mind.
Oh,
you have the Iron Giant, Mechagodzilla. I just think that this movie is like, I don't know, man. It's food for the imagination. It's just wonderful. It's a treat.
Yeah, and it's like, those two particular sequences, or like those three, just basically the race in the beginning.
And
that whole sequence,
I love how they talk about. Yeah, it was fantastic, and there's so many little things, little nods, like the Batmobile spitting out, no, and how Spielberg didn't really want to throw in his own stuff. because in the book there's actually riddled with Steven Spielberg references.
Yeah.
He threw in a nice reference to his first protege though, Bob Zemeckis, had a great little nod in there. To Robert Zemeckis.
Was that the cube?
Yeah, the Zemeckis cube.
Yeah.
Turn back time, 60 seconds?
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, The Shining. I just love that whole thing. Just like this little horror nugget in there, and you felt like you were in the character's shoes. And then
that made me sad because I've always wished, because Steven Spielberg diversifies for sure.
Yeah.
But he's never really directed like a straight horror film. He's had horrific scenes, and I consider Jurassic Park horrific for sure. And I think some of the scariest moments of my childhood had to do with Jurassic Park, and I loved it.
Yeah.
So whenever I can see Steven Spielberg do anything, in the horror genre, I get excited.
Yeah, it's just the way he balances, it's a really tough thing to take on if you really think about it. You have all these references, all these characters that you could give attention to.
And having it almost shot completely digitally.
Exactly, too. And then so that the third thing that I was thinking about was that, the final sequence, the battle that took place.
Insane. You think he's so old, you would think, oh, maybe he's, you would think maybe he's too out of touch to make a project like this. Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
It's that the Gundam thing that took me out.
I choose Gundam style. Oh yeah,
my gosh.
I loved it. I love Ready Player One.
Yeah.
If anyone mentions Ready Player One, I'll talk your ear off for 45 minutes. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow I'm going to do a full Ready Player One podcast. We're going to find out. Maybe I should read the book, but I don't want to do that because I already saw the movie. And I'm a movie guy. But that's my number 8. Ready Player One. I'll stop myself while I can. So we're going off to your number 7.
Yes. My number 7, hold on, is The Incredibles 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You already know The Incredibles, a long-awaited and
still the highest rated I've ever given a film on the site.
That's very true. I was anticipating it like many people were, and Brad Bird coming back doing his thing.
Yeah, and
just literally picking up right where he left off in this movie. And the end. I remember we were just like commenting on some of the trailers and like how, I think it was like one of the trailers where the amount of detail they go through, the fibers on Mr. Incredible's shirt.
Yeah, there's some memes about that.
Yeah, and it's just walking into this movie, I didn't know what to expect. From the trailers, I think we sort of got the idea as to what the story was going to be.
Yeah, we knew that it was going to take off right after.
Yeah.
We didn't know if there'd be a time jump or something, but
yeah. Oh, and you cannot continue without mentioning the score of this movie.
Oh, Michael Giacchino comes back.
Great, man. Immediately, just the opening sequence, you immediately like, yep, this is Incredibles. That's immediately the reaction you
haven't seen Incredibles. I'm sorry, I'll spoil the beginning a little bit because go watch it. But and I love the fact that they let the Underminer, kind of get away in the beginning. Things don't always work out, and I just think that the story, what I think that I loved about this most was the direction Brad Bird brought, because not only did he pick up right where he left off in Incredibles 1, but I think that he went off, did a Mission Impossible film, knocked it out of the park, then took what he did there and applied it to this film, because whereas I think that Incredibles 1 and 2 are really close for me, in terms of which one I prefer, I think that the action sequences in this are just so cinematic. Some of the most cinematic action I've ever seen in an animated film. Incredibles 2 didn't make my list, unfortunately. I think I just have something out for animated films, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it as well.
Yeah, it's just like, what they did for, Elastigirl and her storyline. And
yeah, we kind of switched roles. And
yeah, it was just, the story. It was just like, and, it had a really good message about parenthood and, like.
It did.
It's just like, there was many great comedic scenes in there and,
and Raccoon Jack fight.
Oh, no, we cannot continue without talking about that. And then them, him discovering more of his powers and us discovering more of his powers and seeing what he can do. And I just all the, comedic scenes of, him teleporting to other dimensions. And
yeah, because a lot of times I think with any superhero film, regardless if it's animated or not, I think that and this goes with a lot of movies that rely on action or things. If you have a good movie before being a superhero film, or taking out the action, then you have a good film on your hands because the action will fall into place. And I think that's definitely the case here. We have a great film just on its own as like a family piece.
Exactly.
And then you go to the Elastigirl side, and we have a crazy, well shot, well directed, imaginative, intense superhero movie.
Exactly. The plot, kept thickening as you went on through the movie, and you try to see like, what's really going on, what's really happening.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me was, it was just the return. Like, everyone loved, whoever's seen the first Incredibles, everyone loved those characters and the family and everything those, all those characters represented. And then immediately just coming into Incredibles 2, there was not a second in that movie where I felt like, they were different characters, They all
sure.
They all grew in their own ways, especially Violet, she grew in her own way. And yeah, all the characters basically, discovered and grew, and I just loved it, which is why it was on my number 7.
Number 7. Now we're going to get into another movie that I absolutely love for my number 7. Could have been my number 1.
No.
If you asked me the day after I saw it, it probably would have been my number 1. That is none other than from one of my favorite franchises of all time, one of the movie franchises I've seen more than any other movie franchise possibly outside of maybe Star Wars, maybe Creed 2.
I knew
Creed 2, directed by Stephen Cable Jr. I was a bit nervous because Ryan Coogler birthed Creed 1 out of nothing. That was his thing. And I was like, Ryan Coogler, it was very stylized. It's very modern. It's very different. I was kind of nervous not having Ryan Coogler come back. I got to check out a documentary Stephen Cable did on Netflix, and it was pretty good, but I didn't think that it necessarily showed what he can do as a director. But seeing Creed 2, man, it's like I would compare it to The Incredibles, where I could have watched it, and if I didn't know, I would have thought Ryan Coogler directed this one too, probably. I think that the way they worked the story, because we obviously knew, Drago's coming back.
Yeah.
Okay, he's gonna fight his son.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they expanded on, and I want to give a lot of credit to Sylvester Stallone for writing this.
Mm-hmm.
They did so much with the Drago character and the Drago storyline that I didn't expect. I expected to come in like,
yeah, brute. He was just,
we're going to break you again.
Yeah, literally.
That is not the case. They brought so much depth and levity to the character of Ivan Drago in showing sort of the fallout of losing to Rocky and how that sort of made his life plummet.
Mm-hmm.
Lost him his family, lost him his country. He was basically a disgrace, and his son suffered for it. Becoming and besides that, you go to the other side and you have Adonis Creed. He has a kid on the way. He has a kid coming. He's the champ. He has a lot going on. His wife is still losing his hearing. And I think that, once again, take the boxing out of this, you still have a great film.
Exactly.
You could have shown me this movie without a fight.
Yeah.
And I still would have loved it just because of the character work.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you throw the boxing in, it's still very well shot, dynamic, The camera is always on the move. It's always following people around. It's like stalking you like you're in a fight. And it's very immersive. Also, Sylvester Stallone, once again, I just want to say it again. I've said it a million times. I think he was robbed of the Oscar for Creed. He should have a supporting actor Oscar on his shelf. It happens.
Yeah.
Once again, killed it in this movie. And the way that this movie is even more of a passing of the torch than Creed 1 was. I think this is really passing the torch because I believe in Creed 3, Rocky won't be around. In any capacity, really. I think that it's just going to be just all Creed. And he has a really special moment at the end, Adonis.
Oh, yeah.
That is a callback to the rest of the franchise. And that just really touched me, man. I mean, there's multiple moments in the score. Ludwig did this score as well.
No, yeah.
And there's just a moment in the fight that I was feeling it, man. You hit do,
yeah.
and I was ready to jump up in the air. yeah, I just loved it. Rocky Balboa is my favorite film character of all time. He was like, I mean, I know it's great. I mean, he was like a father figure to me growing up. I love Rocky, and I think that the Creed installments in the franchise have been some of the greatest things in my movie going life. I love them to death.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's my number 7.
Yeah, I can. It's funny that you should say that's your number 7, but
why?
Because guess what's my number 6?
Creed 2?
Yeah.
Creed 2.
Creed 2 is my number 6.
My man.
And, I would just simply reiterate some of the points that you've just stated. And the biggest thing that I want to reiterate is, like, if you were to remove the boxing out of this movie, just, and just pay attention to the stories and, the like, I think I've said this while we were watching the movies, the problems and, the ambivalence that Adonis Creed was facing, because his reputation was in question. Like he was this person who was calling him out, saying like, oh, it's taking shots at his dad and all this sort of stuff.
There's so many layers to
exactly.
this exact problem. Not like, because anyone could have called him out, and you could have had a story right there, because that's what Rocky 3 was. We had a new character in Clubber Lang, calls him out, and I love Rocky 3, but this had more to it. There's more meat to it.
Yeah. There's exactly. Yeah.
The son of the man who killed his father. You have that going on, but he had, Rocky knows what can happen. There's a line that I love, and it's in the trailer. And he says, "There's things he broke in me that can't never get fixed."
Yeah.
And that, it's fantastic. And the struggle between, Rocky wanting to look out for him, but not wanting to be any part of this because of the, it still weighs on his conscience, not throwing in the towel.
Yeah. It's like literally like whether or not he should have thrown in the towel, and if that could have changed a lot of things, and it could have, but he has to live with that. It's just and that's a big thing to mention, the layers that Adonis had in his character. I just loved it. He had a baby on the way. He had to think about that, and it's like you really like, I really put myself in his shoes. I'm like, it's like, what do you do? Like, this person had the force. Well, this person's dad killed your dad, and then it's just like there's just so much on the line, and
he's so much bigger than him.
And then here, Adonis, there was just like a lot of romance and love. All those themes were coming in, and
there's another moment. Rocky has always applied great speeches, and the 3 steps to the ring, and there's something that really did touch me in this film when Adonis is talking to oh man, why am I forgetting her name? Her character's name.
Oh yeah. Her name is
Bianca.
Yeah.
He's talking to Bianca, and she's asking him, why are you doing this? And he's talking about it like, why do you sing? We talked about it in the first Creed, and he says, it's if we don't, it's like whatever I say. He's like, it's not for your father. It's not. He's like, it's for me. He's basically saying, what does he say? It's like, if we don't do what we love, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
It's like he loves it, and I definitely I relate to that. I identify with that, and I think that that's a powerful statement to make. I think that a lot of boxing movies are very it's like, it's boxing, it's bruising. There's just it's so much more layered and poignant, and there's really deep messages coming out of this film.
Yeah, there was so much heart, so much meat, so many layers, and the most unexpected layering of a character that I just didn't. I'm just gonna make up the word layering. That I didn't expect was to see his son. What was it? Ivan Drago's son?
Drago's son. I don't know. Let's call him Igor.
And it's just there's just a scene. Like, I didn't expect that. Because like which Rocky was it? Rocky
Victor Drago.
Oh yeah, Victor Drago. Yeah.
What, Rocky 4?
Yeah, and like because at the end of the fight, he was
Well, don't spoil anything.
Well, in that movie, the big thing, the main thing that I really loved is just like reigniting, the war that the United States has.
Oh, in Rocky 4.
Yeah. With the Soviet
it's timely
with Russia, and then just to add some humanity to Ivan Drago, and to see like what he had lost was a huge thing, and so I just personally really loved it, and that's why it's on my number 6 right there.
All right.
What do you got?
So now on my number 6, it's a movie that I went to see opening night in IMAX, opening showing 7 o'clock. walked outside, decided I needed to see it again, went right back in for another IMAX showing at 10, and that is none other than director Ryan Coogler's Black Panther.
Oh wow, the Black Panther.
The Black Panther. Drum. Drum.
Oh man.
Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
I could recite a lot of this film.
Oh yeah,
you want me to act out a scene right now?
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, so there they are fighting for the title of king. It's the gorilla M'Baku and T'Challa, soon to be king, presumably of Wakanda. M'Baku stabs T'Challa in the abdomen. No, in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And, this word faces a cross. Letitia Wright's character, his little sister Shuri, goes, "Show them who you are, brother!" And he says, "Mwah! I'm King T'Challa! Son of King T'Chaka!" No, Prince T'Challa, my mistake.
Oh, yeah.
Then the theme kicks in. Takes out the leg. He rolls him over, puts him in a headlock. And he says, "Yield! Yield!" And he's just standing there over the waterfall. And he's like, "Your people need you." And then, he gives up.
Mm-hmm.
My accent got exceptionally worse as that went on. So I want to apologize for that. But the Black Panther, written and directed for the screen by Ryan Coogler. Let's see, what was it? The 18th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
$700 million.
$700 million domestically. This film, I think, is nothing short of spectacular. And I actually do believe, 100% believe, and I would be very accepting of it, that it has a genuine shot at Best Picture. I think that it has a shot to win Best Picture, for sure. And I don't think that it's some sort of because, I've been outspoken about, it's not that I don't like Moonlight, but when Moonlight won over La La Land, I was pretty damn upset. But this, because when you look at what a Best Picture is, you think of all the different categories of the Academy. You have, sound mixing, sound editing, Best Actor, Best Actress. But beyond that, you have set design, visual effects, costume design, screenplay. And the thing is, okay, I think that Black Panther has the best costume design of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it has the best score of the year.
Oh, yeah.
That's 2 Oscars right there that I would hand to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Michael B. Jordan should necessarily win, but I think that I wouldn't be upset if he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it has maybe not Best Visual Effects, but maybe a nomination there. But sound mixing is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Sound editing, it should be nominated for both, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Best Director, certainly.
Yeah.
And I think the story is fantastic. So I wouldn't even begrudge it to be nominated for a Best Screenplay. That's a lot of nominations they could potentially have.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's universally loved. And that's why I think that it could be a Best Picture contender. But besides that, I just loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that it's so they take the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which at this point, most of the films have a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
You try and sell a film by the crossover because, you have a Thor film, which will make a lot of money. But when you throw Hulk in there, too, it's going to make more money.
Yeah.
Or, you have Captain America. He has his whole gang now. You have Civil War. But this really stood on its own. Really only have very minor crossover with a minor character.
Yeah.
I think that the story it's very well. It's topical, but it's not like shoving it down your throat. I don't think it's just fantastic. I think the costumes are great. I think the action's great. They did so much in terms of inclusion, but it wasn't. It's because sometimes you have these movies that sort of seem forced when they go with oh, we're gonna have it's just following a wave, and I think that Black Panther is trailblazing.
Yeah, trailblazing.
Trailblazing
Perfect.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Wakabi is fantastic. The cast in general.
Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah, Daniel Kaluuya. He's great.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chadwick Boseman gets overshadowed by Michael B. Jordan a lot of the times, but I think that he was fantastic, adding more to this, and I actually really enjoyed the romance between him and Lupita Nyong'o playing Okoye.
Okoye.
And one of my favorite characters in this and in Infinity War is M'Baku. And I think that even in a minor role, it's just they have so many things that pay off in this movie. They set things up, they pay them off well.
Oh yeah.
It's epic. The action is epic. And it's not just like a superhero movie. I think there's a lot more than that. I think that anytime you have Ryan Coogler doing a movie, it's going to be a lot more than that. And watching this just makes me want him to direct a Star Wars film.
Yeah. That's something I would want as well.
That's on my wish list.
Yeah, it's like I would, literally, agree with all that.
I'd run you over for... Oh, never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's just... Yeah, the themes, I guess, is the most important. And the key word that you've mentioned to describe Black Panther, trailblazing.
Yeah.
And what it did for the MCU. This movie...
Domestically made more than Infinity War, which is insane.
Infinity War is a movie we've been waiting for like a decade, 10 years for.
Building up to.
Yeah, building up to that.
Peace in our time.
Exactly. And here we get Black Panther. And, this sends a huge message to, Marvel back at their studios. And I'm just excited to see, Black Panther 2 and all this stuff that's possibly going to happen.
And it goes to say, I think earlier we mentioned, you were talking about how, in DC you don't know what to expect tonally and things like that. And I think that Black Panther, while they fit narratively together, I do think that a lot of Marvel films have very different tones, and people, for whatever reason, just kind of like to say that they're all the same, when really they're not. Black Panther and Doctor Strange are very different films.
Yeah.
And things like that. And I think that this definitely has the Ryan Coogler mark on it.
Mm-hmm.
And just to hear how much, he went into making it, how much effort he went in, going to Africa, doing all the necessary research, hearing the actors talk about, different, how they kind of came up with the dialect to use. It's just, it's great.
That's why it's your number 6 right there.
Yes, sir. Moving on to number 5 for you.
Number 5. It's a movie that you have mentioned before.
Shoot.
And that movie, for me, number 5.
Yeah.
Is Annihilation.
Ooh. Yeah, dude, it was my favorite movie of the year for a long time.
It's, I love my psychological thrillers, especially.
Same.
That's like really up there for me. Thrillers, psychological thrillers, anything that just like messes with my mind.
Yeah.
Those are the movies that I love. And Alex Garland, I think, what did he win for Ex Machina? Did Alicia Vikander win?
She won, they won Best Visual Effects, and I believe Alicia Vikander won Supporting Actress.
Yeah. And so I didn't know too much about, I don't know too much about Alex Garland's filmography, but
he actually uncredited, it came out, Carl Urban talked about it, and actually right before Annihilation came out, that Alex Garland actually did direct Dredd, which I love Dredd. I think that, and it makes so much sense. I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I forget who's credited.
Yeah.
They said, there's production problems. They basically kicked him off. Alex Garland took over uncredited. That was his first film. Then he did Ex Machina, written and directed, and now Annihilation.
And that makes a lot of sense now, clearly, because I love Dredd as well. Dredd is always a great one to watch. Really, got that really
very stylistic, very stylized.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And it's funny you should mention that, because with the visuals that we see in Annihilation when they enter the Shimmer, I think that's what
the Shimmer, yeah.
And it's just, again, the investment in, like, I was immediately invested in Natalie Portman's character, and I just love, all the science stuff behind it, and all those
it's very intriguing.
The philosophical, psychological and biological implications that this movie had just, floored me. And from the first watching, I didn't quite get it. It didn't quite click. But then,
we had discussions on it.
Yeah, then having discussions afterwards and watching some video essays, like, and I knew that this was based on a book, but I was just so blown away by it, and like, I just loved the thrill of it all, and just seeing, where this was heading, and what each character represented in the movie.
I love the diversity between all the characters too.
Yeah.
The diversity, because they're all going on the same journey, but they have different. I would say, some of them, I don't know, they have different outlooks on the journey. I'll say that. Exactly. They're all going on the same journey, but very different. They view it differently. I'll say that.
The theme of death, and how the theme of death and grief in this movie is what really floored me in this movie. And like, when you were talking about how there was a point in the movie where it just went like 3 times, 3 times.
Yeah, it just clicked when the concept of what was going on clicked for me.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad, because there's been times where, there's really high concept movies like this where, you just don't get it on the first viewing or whatever, and then you read about it, I'm like,
Yeah.
I hate,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that happens,
That happened to me here.
and I was just so happy that in my view, it was near the end too, that, and I just like lit up. I was like, okay, this is next level stuff here,
Yeah, and I was kind of like, yeah. Again, it's funny you should mention all that. The production problems that Alex Garland faced with Dread, because
Yeah.
this one also like almost faced some problems.
I mean, it had, and it's. I think that it's incredibly sad how they treated the film.
Yeah. If you mention this movie to some people, they might not even recall that it came out this year.
Yep.
It's
it's sad because it's such a spectacle too. Alone, like just watching it, and the fact that so many people in other countries outside of the United States had no chance to watch it in theater.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, and again, this movie just really blew me away. It was just the themes of death and grief that really made it for me. And although I didn't get it to click for me in the beginning of while I was watching the movie, I upon further research, it eventually clicked, and then watching it again, as everything makes sense.
And this is one of those movies that the second viewing is it's special.
And also there's the soundtrack that I really enjoyed too, like the eerie soundtrack that they had as she approached the I guess the crash zone, or the
what would you call it?
Yeah, ground zero, I guess.
Yeah, you can call it that.
That's where
we don't need to talk about it too much.
But
and I think that Alex Garland has a track record in Ex Machina and in this film now, that his scores are very they're very functional. They do they're always used with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have much fluff. You don't. They're very purposeful pieces.
Yeah, but that's my number 5 right there. What do you got for your number 5?
My number. No, that's your number. Was that your number 5?
Yeah.
Because I already did my 5. I'm on my 4.
Oh, well, I'm on, because my next one is gonna be my number 4.
Oh my god.
Did you end up skipping one then?
I only have 9 on my list.
Oh
man, I can throw one in right now.
All right.
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the draft. All right. So what I'm going to do here is, maybe this isn't in the correct place. Maybe it is. But I'm just going to throw it in there for you. My number 5 is going to be
what do you got for us?
Okay.
What are you just going to throw in there?
Okay, what I'm going to throw in here is BlacKkKlansman. BlacKkKlansman, and that actually, you know what? I wrestled with this. It very well could have been there. BlacKkKlansman, directed by Spike Lee, starring J.D. Washington, who is perhaps my favorite actor of all time, Denzel Washington's son, Adam Driver, an all-star-studded cast, Topher Grace.
Mm-hmm.
It's this incredibly glossed-over historical story of, this black police officer rookie cop, Colorado Springs, I believe, who basically gets into the Ku Klux Klan. And I just think that this is Spike. It's a Spike Lee joint,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incredibly fun to watch, and I think that it gives infinite rewatchability. Some of the best performances, and what I loved about it was just that, because Denzel's getting up there in age now. There's certain roles he can't play, and watching JD do his thing in this film, it just made me so excited, because I'm like, wow, I may have a whole nother generation of another Washington. I mean, he sounds like him. He very much carries a screen presence similar to his father. He commands the screen, When you watch him, it's just electrifying. I was incredibly intrigued the entire way through just from his performance. And that's putting the story aside, which it's a hilarious story, the way that Spike tells it. But it's also, there's a lot going on. And I think that I've seen this movie twice, and I think that I'm hopefully going to watch it maybe tonight. I don't know. But I think that it does get better with rewatches.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the soundtrack is pretty spectacular. The costume design is great, set design. You really feel like you're in this small Colorado town. And yeah, I just think that it could be my favorite Spike Lee film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and I'm a pretty big Spike Lee fan, especially with his work with Denzel, of course. But yeah, I just hope that now. I hope that he sort of him and J.D. Washington have their own filmography to put together now. I hope. Adam Driver's fantastic. Getting to see him do something other than Star Wars, which he has plenty of other credits to his name. But it's just always nice seeing him diversify, doing different things. And yeah.
Wow, that impromptu number 5 edition right there.
Yes, sir.
And it's a movie that I have not seen, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it after the way you've described it.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, that means we're moving on to number 4.
Yeah, number 4. Coming at you.
And for me, number 4 is a movie that you've talked about recently.
Oh. The Black Panther.
The Black Panther. It's number 4 on my list.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Number 1 in your Pretty Little Heart.
Oh my god.
Joking. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. That just threw me off, but yeah, Black Panther number 4 on my list for some of the same reasons that we've reiterated before that you've mentioned. It's the main thing is how I could not have expected the amount of the reaction that this movie got and how it truly just trailblazed, not just for MCU but just for movies in general, and to see what audiences like, and this really just showed the power of
because representation has always been a big problem in Hollywood. And we had Crazy Rich Asians, which I didn't love, but it made a ton of money. And that's another film that a lot of studios don't want to make. And we have Black Panther leading the way. It just makes me excited, for the future of film and the future of we're going to get new talent that we wouldn't have gotten before. We're going to get new opportunities for very talented people and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and again, just MCU. I'm always down for I pay close attention to MCU movies because they just always know how to make them great. And I was just blown away by Black Panther and didn't know what to expect. It's a movie that definitely exceeded my expectations. I didn't know much about the character Black Panther himself. And, watching this and introducing everyone to the world of Wakanda, and I loved how they portrayed the women in this movie and how
they're great.
They're the army and
the Dora Milaje.
And just all the performances, just all the heart. Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis is always great to see him do some live action stuff.
Yeah, and so and the amount of dedication, and people made fun of him for the amount of dedication he went through and what has resulted from it. With Michael B. Jordan. And, I just respected him for that. He really he put in 110. He knew what this movie, meant. He knew. And
to himself, I think that he was doing it going in because you only get performances like this when it means a lot to the actor and everyone involved.
Yeah. And he, put in so much,
Yeah, he really got into that character.
Exactly. And it took a toll on him. But, ultimately, it was a great movie. And that's why it's my number 4 right there.
Yeah. So I'm going to my number 4, and I'm going to just go crazy over this. Mission Impossible Fallout. Mission Impossible, the latest installment. You have not caught up yet, so I'm going to shun you. But Mission Impossible Fallout is without a doubt, it's not my favorite movie of the year, but I do actually believe at this moment, if I had the pick of the best picture of the year, I might give it to Mission Impossible Fallout, because I think that it is cinematically a masterpiece. I think that it is going where no one else dares go to in the world of film as far as the stunt work goes. You watch this movie, you can go on YouTube and type in Mission Impossible 5 or Mission Impossible Fallout B-roll footage. That is almost as good as a movie. Just watching them do these stunts.
Yeah.
Oh, it's grueling, man. Tom Cruise driving through the streets on a motorcycle, no helmet, him dropping off of a rope, hanging from a helicopter, hitting a ball, climbing back up, doing that all day, flying corkscrews and helicopters over snowing mountains, and that is just the tip of the iceberg, my friend. It is the darkest, it's a dark installment in what is it's a lighter spy franchise. I won't say that it's light because there's always high stakes. It's always end of the world stuff. But I think it's always a really fun ride, and that's still the case with this film. but it's dark, man. It is gritty compared to the other installments.
Ooh.
Christopher McQuarrie comes back, the first returning director to the franchise, having directed the last one as well.
Yeah.
And I do believe that Mission Impossible Fallout is my favorite of the franchise. I think they keep getting better, which seems impossible to do each time. I saw Ghost Protocol, I'm like, it can't be better than this. I saw Rogue Nation, I thought it can't be better than this. Fallout comes out, how can it be any better than this? I don't know. They're probably going to drive a Maserati out of a spaceship, and Tom Cruise is going to free fall. I don't know. He's probably going to do it 1,000 times this time. But it's just a spectacle going to see this in IMAX. The acting is great. You have your returning characters. There's callbacks to the franchise. This is undoubtedly the best shot action film of the year. I think this is an all-time action film in terms of what they did for it. Tom Cruise, I mean, the story of him breaking his ankle, and you see it in the shot. He keeps running, and it
keeps
hurts.
Going.
I love Mission Impossible Fallout. Christopher McQuarrie is a star. Tom Cruise is a star. And it's crazy because you can tell the difference. Like, go watch Skyscraper with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Not trying to knock him, but you watch that, and then you watch Mission Impossible. It's not even in the same league. They're playing at the Y while we're playing the Monstars. Okay, that's what, like, Christopher McQuarrie is doing with Mission Impossible. I mean, learning to fly a helicopter, and not only just learning, but doing these very dangerous maneuvers.
Yeah.
Putting everything on the line, really risking your life every day, just to please me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's the running theme when it comes to these Mission Impossible movies is what's the next way that Tom Cruise?
How can we almost die?
Yeah, and like Rogue. Yeah, I just remember the trailer for Rogue Nation and just him.
Yep.
The end shot was just him hanging off the helicopter, and I was like, nothing. He had nothing
for
on
Fallout.
Was that? Was that for
Rogue Nation? Was the plane?
Yeah. The plane. Yeah, he was hanging out of the plane. Remember?
Yeah.
He was just holding on. I was like, he's doing
So
this.
many great featurettes too.
Yeah, and it's just, I can't like. I've heard the comparisons made to since Mad Max Fury Road. The practicality.
Not even close, man.
Oh,
I don't think it's close in terms of what they did with stunt work. I think.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Stunt work in this one, from what I've seen with the B-roll footage and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it must be intense.
Wild.
And I'm excited to see.
And
it.
Everybody's in on it, man. Yeah. All the actors. But yeah, that's my number 4. What do you got? Now you're in 3. Now we're going top 3, 2018. What do you got?
Oh yeah, I should. I think you probably. I've been waiting to say this one. Top 3. Number 3, we got. Maybe it's time to let the old ways die.
Okay, I'm just going to say it. This is my number 2, so I'm also going to talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Just so we can talk about it together.
Exactly.
Because I can't contain it.
Number 3, yeah. A Star is Born.
I remember we saw the trailer separately, and then I remember you came back into town, and I was like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's a trailer that had me shook to my boots. That's A Star is Born, and you lost it because you loved that trailer too. Didn't think there'd be anyone else. This movie it's something, man. It could easily be my number 1.
Yeah.
I mean, Bradley Cooper, his directorial debut.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Gaga, her feature film debut.
Yep.
Bradley Cooper got. It's just wild, man. It's a gut punch of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which is exactly what I love. I love these really gut-wrenching, heart-breaking kind of films.
Mm-hmm.
This is the 4th installment.
Yeah.
I've only seen the 4th, not installment, but the 4th remake of the story. I've only seen one before, and I don't think that it's very comparable. I think this is a much superior film. What do you think, man?
Yeah, it was... the gut-wrenching and the heartbreaking aspect of this movie was something I didn't prepare for. And the thing was, I didn't know anything about the movie. I don't know anything about the plot. I know I just knew that it was a 4th remake.
Yeah.
And I liked what the trailer gave us and the story of it. Like, okay, there's this star and, there's this person who's trying to, become somebody.
An aging singer who's still very famous. He's not having a problem with that, but, he's got some... He's depressed. He's got a lot of he's a heavy drinker.
Yeah.
But what I love about this film is so often in film we always have a drunk. You have these love stories, whatever the case. The drunk is so mean and abusive. That was not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave us something different, you know. Bradley Cooper, he was in his character Jackson Maine. I mean, he was a drunk for sure, but you know, he never raised a hand. He's not a violent person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that so often in film and in a lot of mediums, they just present people, you know, drunk people as a certain way where, you know, people act differently. People are all different.
Yeah.
And he's just sad, you know. He has a lot happened in his life, and it's brilliant.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that, you know, had to come into play for this movie to really work, and it's the chemistry between Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper.
Oh my gosh, I know what I left off this list. I'm going to gush about it in a second just a little bit, but go ahead.
But yeah, the chemistry between those two characters had to be, you know, really there.
Because they're pretty much the movie.
Yeah.
It is almost a two-person show.
Yeah.
With Sam Elliott, but very limited.
Yeah, and I just didn't know what to really expect because I've never seen.
And they shot it all in front of live audiences, which really pays off.
Oh, yeah.
It really pays off. It feels so great. I think Lady Gaga does a lot of acting in her singing, which is a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Loosening up, you know, the first performance, the way that she starts it to the way she ends it, it takes talent.
Yeah. And yeah, it goes back to the casting and the choice that Bradley Cooper, you know, we've watched tons of like interviews and saw how Bradley Cooper came into contact with thinking about having Lady Gaga.
Also, the way they talk about, you know, how he's directing, and like sometimes he's directing as Jackson Maine, sometimes he's Bradley Cooper. You just don't know, and all of a sudden he's like, sometimes you don't think anything's rolling, and it's
yeah, and it's just the emotion, you know, and how much you care about these characters again, just really hit home, and you know, it was just
songwriting is spectacular.
Yeah. It's just you already know. Oscars, this thing.
Yeah, it has to win Best Original Song.
Yeah.
For Shallow.
Yeah.
Although Never Love Again is something, man. That song will rip your heart out. Especially the ending of this film killed me.
Ooh.
I remember just sitting on it for so long, and it was just, I mean, I can only imagine working on the film. You know, Lady Gaga talks about how she dyed her hair immediately after she was done filming because she just wanted to get the character out of her, and she loved doing it, but like it takes a toll, you know. It took a toll on me, and I was just watching it, so invested. It stayed with me for a while, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that it's just one of the best. You know, it's fantastic because Bradley Cooper wrote and directed it.
Wrote, directed, and starred.
Yeah, and starred. A star was born, certainly.
And that's the thing, yeah.
That's Lady Gaga as well as Bradley Cooper.
Because his performance, you know.
And that guy is a guy who diversifies for sure.
He does.
He played a talking space raccoon and Jackson Maine in the same year.
Yeah, it's just his performance. You know, like you remember that scene when he was in rehab.
Yeah.
And it's just.
Oh yeah, man.
Just how much emotion he brought, you know, to the Grammy scene, like the entire.
Definitely a Best Actor nomination.
Yeah.
Will he win? We don't know, but I would not be against him taking home that trophy for sure. It's just, I think that this is my Best Picture pick. This is my ballots in front of me. I'm putting Star is Born as my number one. I just think that it encompasses everything I personally sort of want in my Best Picture, and I know people can think of it differently, but just for myself, this is the ideal kind of Best Picture for me.
Yeah, and that's why it's for me, my number 3, and for you, your number 2.
My number 2.
So what's your number 3?
Okay, real quick.
Oh yeah.
Actually, no, it was my number 3 also.
Oh.
It was my number 3. Real quick, I'm gonna squeeze it in there. My number 4, Bohemian Rhapsody. I love Bohemian Rhapsody. I went in not knowing very much about Queen, not knowing much about. I didn't even know Freddie Mercury was Pakistani. I learned a lot. I had a great time. The last 20 minutes of this film is greater than maybe any 20 minutes in any other film. Maybe not, but I adore this movie. I think that the way they go through the entire Live Aid concert. They act the whole thing out. And it's electric. I went to see it the next day after we saw it. It was just weighing on my brain. I just needed to see it again. It was like I was an addict and I needed my fix. And so I went. Rami Malek, of course, has a tour de force performance. Definitely a front runner to win Best Actor as well as Bradley Cooper. But there's just a lot of things that this movie did for me that just worked. And I just keep going back to that end. But really, a lot of great moments. A lot of it's just fun. It's informative, and I loved it. So that's my really quick throw in. We covered my number 3 and your number 3, same movie. So now we're gonna move to number 2. What is your number 2?
Okay.
That was the quick. I was doing speed round there.
All right. So for me, my number 2, and
I don't know if they can hear you.
My number 2. I've been waiting to talk about this one for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Now, that movie. Talk about
something you've never seen before.
Yeah, that movie. I bring this up multiple times throughout this episode, and it's the amount that it exceeded my expectations.
And you know what? If I did my list over, I'd probably have it in there at number 10. Just thinking about. I've been thinking about this whole time, and yeah, I made a mistake. But yeah, that happens. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, it's like you said, it's something I have never seen on screen before. Just the art, when starting from the beginning with the trailer and seeing the art direction that they were going with, the animation style. I was like,
which is something different.
Yeah, it was something different.
New.
And I was immediately, hooked on it. And I think we did we see this one in IMAX first?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's like just seeing movies in general in IMAX is just probably the best way. It's always the best way to get the full experience that you would want. But yeah, seeing this movie just immediately, just from the get-go, the opening, just stylistically, I was just like, yeah, it could have. I think you mentioned this before. It could have quickly gotten,
overwhelming, annoying, maybe a headache.
Exactly.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, and it quickly, just the pacing of this movie was really good, and especially the character, just how they introduced Miles and how the quick exposition they do to just introduce us to who Miles is. They don't, give us like a long. They just immediately just throw you in and, have him sitting at his desk just listening to music, and then just this rush of him getting to school.
And they constantly reintroduce us to characters in a cool, fun way, I think.
Yeah.
Let's do this one more time.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I think that they have so many characters that are so different that everybody has a character they can latch on to, which I really appreciate in a film, especially like this.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's just I just love the style, love the art, love the soundtrack.
Love Nick Cage.
Well, yeah, we'll get to all those specific characters. Yeah, but I didn't initially really know how this movie was going to go. They had Fisk as the main villain, played by Leave.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I just love Spider-Man in general, just the character himself.
Yeah,
but
he's really fantastic.
Exactly. And, the world especially really loves Spider-Man, as we've heard from Stan Lee himself say, as he goes around the world, and all everyone wants to talk about with him is mostly Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But what this did to the character of Spider-Man, and just how much it opened literally the universe of the many different characters,
the multiverse,
exactly, that we got of Spider-Man. We got Penny Parker, we got Peter Porker, we got Spider Noir.
Yeah, Peter Parker.
Hey, we got Peter Parker.
Also Peter Parker.
And yeah, Peter Parker. We got Peter Parker played by
Chris Pine.
for
which I did not know was coming.
Yeah, for a hot second. I loved it, man. And then just that. Oh yeah, with
voice cast though.
The voice cast
is
Haley Steinfeld,
Jake Johnson, Shamik Moore.
Yeah, oh yeah, him playing Miles Morales. Yeah, and then John Mulaney playing Peter Parker.
Place your hand on his shoulder like this.
Nick Cage.
Say, hey.
Oh yeah, Nick Cage, Marshall Ali. Yeah, it's just who would have just like a lot of great just comedy, a lot of heart. And yeah, I just had just an absolute
touching, and it took the Spider-Man story that I think that everybody knows and loves, and just executed it to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of anyone can wear the mask. Yeah. There's a great Stan Lee reference in there where he says, "It fits everybody eventually."
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that was his final voice casting job.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just had a great time with this movie. It just hit on on every box, just everything. I loved it. I could see this movie multiple times, and that's why it's my number 2 right there.
All right. I believe we have the same number 1.
I don't know if we do. I don't think so.
No?
I don't know what your number 2 is.
Oh.
I'm just trying to think.
I switched it up.
Oh,
my number 2 is A Quiet Place.
Okay, yeah.
Do we have the same number 1?
I think we do.
All right, good. All right, so I was like, what if it's not on his list? A Quiet Place is my number 2. This is my favorite movie of the year for a very long time. I wrestled with this for a long time between my number 1 and number 2. I just think that I love horror. I love sci-fi. I love thrillers. This is an expertly directed piece by John Krasinski. Is a family-first film. And I love that John Krasinski speaks often about how he's not a horror guy. You know, a lot of movies scare him. But he just found it very hard to pass up this opportunity where he saw this story about it's really the story is about family and how far would you go to keep your family safe? What would you do? What lengths would you go through? And then it came to, okay, so now when you know what you would do to protect your family, what's the worst possible situation we could put you in? You got a baby in an environment where you cannot make noise. You have a woman having to give birth. There's these creatures that will kill you at any sound can give them all they need to kill you in an instant. You have to be extremely careful. You have a deaf daughter, and the way they play with that is fantastic. The way they use the sound. Sound is a big character in this film. It's just great seeing that, you know, we have different perspectives, and whenever they switch to the daughter who's deaf, the sound drains out. And we just have her perspective. But I love that it's almost always looking behind her. So we see that there's stuff going on often, and she just doesn't know. And she can't, it's not her fault. And that just makes the stakes so much higher. I could see someone hating this movie if you had rude people in your theater, but I was lucky enough to have great theater experiences. You can drop a pin in that theater. I'm just sitting there holding my breath, not wanting to make a noise myself. And that's just a big, big, big thanks to direction of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, who I think hopefully will get nominated for Best Actress, but probably won't. She needs to get nominated, and I think that between her and Toni Collette from Hereditary, who also definitely won't get nominated, I think the race is between them personally. There's other great female performances, but I think those two definitely stand out above the rest. But Emily Blunt in this film is nothing short of spectacular. This is on par with any performance she's ever done. It may be my favorite performance of hers. I just think that she brings so much to it. She brings so much grit. She brings so much realism. And I think that it's tough. And it shows that, you know, she talks about she didn't want to take the role originally. She was giving it to a friend. And then she read the script and she told John, do not give this to anyone else.
There's no other way.
And now, you know, we got a sequel greenlit. We'll see what happens with all that. But I just fell in love with this. My horror loving heart fell in love with this film. It's something that I can, and I know I watch it all the time. I find it oddly comforting to watch this. It's very inspiring for me as I write. I think that it's a masterwork, the way that they incorporate all of the different sensations, you know, hearing, touch, fear itself,
sound as a character.
Sound as a character. The cold opening is one of the most just heartbreaking. It's just tough, man. The cold opening,
it really sets the tone.
It sets the tone. They set up the rules, and then they show you just how dire the situation is at any given moment. That's why my number 2 is A Quiet Place. Now we get to it. 2018, 365 days in the year. One movie stood above the rest for us. That is none other than, drumroll please, Avengers Infinity War. Yes, sir. Number 1 on both of our lists. We are both very into the geek culture, and I would say that the MCU has played a big part in both of the last 10 years of our lives. Am I wrong?
Oh, no. Not
no, sir. And Infinity War is unprecedented in film. I think Infinity War is, once again, trailblazing in a new way, showing, I mean, there's been crossovers before in film, but nothing like this. The lead up from 2011's The Avengers? 2012, sorry. 2012's The Avengers. that's when we really started building to this with the introduction of Thanos, the introduction to the Infinity Stones, really, although we had it in Captain America the First Avenger with the Tesseract.
Mm-hmm.
But this is insane.
Oh.
Russo brothers, once again, Marcus McFeely writing,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Feige's guidance. I don't know what to say about this film. I mean, I don't know what not to say about it. The way that they blend, because the MCU has so many different flavors. You have the flavor of Doctor Strange, you have Thor, you have Captain America and Iron Man. All those very different.
Yeah.
Then you throw in someone like the Guardians of the Galaxy, way out there. Not like anything else in the MCU necessarily. Now Thor maybe, but to put them all into the 2.5 hour film and make it feel cohesive and make it feel like it makes sense and nothing's forced, nothing's shoehorned is spectacular.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of talent to do that, and you expect nothing less from the Russo brothers, who have shown us in Civil War that they can handle such a thing.
Yeah, but Civil War was so grand. This makes Civil War look like the first Avenger.
Exactly, and it's just the scale of this, and it was just the anticipation. I just remember, we were just literally talking about, like, we start like, those random phrases where we're like, we can't die. Yeah, we have to see. We have to see Avengers Infinity War.
Maybe I should skip the French fries and eat the salad today.
Yeah.
I need to make it to Infinity War. And then you see Infinity War and you're like, I need to see Avengers 4.
Yeah, and there's so few movies that can,
And you know what's crazy about Infinity War is that I could have very confidently put money down on how it would have ended before I went in, and it ended how I thought it would have went, and I still was shook. I still loved it. I was still emotional, and that's because they can do that. They know, and I will say a lot of people didn't know. You didn't know how it was going to end, right?
I didn't know.
Yeah. And a lot of people did, and to still have it work, there were shrieks, and I'm just going to talk about this spoilers heavy because it made so much money, and if you haven't seen it, you probably shouldn't be listening to this show. When Tony Stark is stabbed, impaled by Thanos, this lady shrieked into my ear from the row behind me. There was sobbing everywhere. There was weeping. People were crying, and some people may think that's ridiculous, but when so many people have gone through a lot with these characters. We've gone through years and years getting to know them.
Yeah.
And they mean a lot to me and to other people, I think. And to have this film as a big payoff, it's like 10 years, all culminating to one point. Everything all focused on one point coming together finally. It's spectacular.
Yeah, and I was just heavily anticipating this movie, and I just remember like the excitement that I was waiting in the lines. Of course, there were just lines for a long time. Surprisingly,
thank you, reserve seating.
Yeah, there's just so many, like, just waiting to see, to see where this is all leading to, and seeing what who Thanos is, and seeing him more on the screen, and to see what he's capable of.
And something I loved is that they let us know right off the bat who that Thanos is. That guy.
Yeah.
He whoops Hulk with ease, takes out Loki, takes out half of Asgard, blows up the ship, makes Thor look like a child.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just, and then again, we talk about how, that sets up the tone of this movie, like, and how, powerful he is, and how they're just going to need everyone to do something to stop this. Cause,
all hands on deck, and it is not enough.
Yeah. And I mean, we cannot get away. We gotta also talk about the sequence in Wakanda. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, two of our favorite sequences. It gives me chills every time. I've seen Infinity War probably over 20 times at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. On my mark, open Northwest Section 17. And they open the section. Black Panther, the Wakandans charging. You have Black Panther emerge from the pack. Captain America running alongside him, just ahead of everybody else. We got a battle clash. It is great. And then the moment that gives me the most chills is Thor's arrival in Wakanda. Bring me Thanos. I adore the film. I love it to death.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it takes a lot of guts to end a movie like that,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people that, and this is the truth, most people right now don't really get what's going to happen. I don't get what's going to happen. I know people are coming.
Yeah.
People are coming back. Things are going to happen. A lot of people watched that movie and saw their favorite heroes die.
Yeah.
And we're like, I mean, having T'Challa, I didn't think that T'Challa was going in because I knew some people obviously were going to get dusted or gone by the snap.
Yeah.
I did not think T'Challa would be one of them.
Oh man.
I was like, definitely. I remember talking to people like, no, he's going to be there. He's not going to get snapped away. They took him out. They took Spider-Man out in a very emotional scene.
Oh, well, that one, yeah. That one just got to me. That one always will get to me every single time. It's just because, seeing Homecoming and the relationship that they have. And it's just...
Yeah. See your ward?
Yeah. And just the character of just Thanos and how he has so many quotable lines. He's so, like... It's like, arguably, he's probably like one of, or if not the best Marvel villain, at least in my...
He is, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And the way they've just, was it Josh Brolin?
Yep, Josh Brolin.
And just like, just so many lines.
So many lines, yeah.
Just love.
For a time, you too. or what's my favorite? Well, there's been a lot of memes, but what did you say?
Let me guess. Her home.
Yes.
It was.
And it was. And it was beautiful. I take it the Ma's dead. I love, and there's just so many scenes. I love Doctor Strange, what they do for him in this movie, and I think that this movie basically cemented him to get a sequel. I think that it was definitely set up to get a sequel, but it'd been 2016, and we hadn't heard anything.
Mm-hmm.
And after this film came out, they got it, going. Scott Derrickson coming back.
Yeah.
And I just think he stood the best chance against Thanos.
Yeah.
It's like he brought you face to face with the master of the mystic arts. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
And just the music Alan Silvestri brings us.
Yeah.
Taking another spin on his, in my opinion, all-time great Avengers theme.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And the musical cues he has at the end with Thanos.
Yeah.
Great.
The porch.
Yes, the porch scene.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things. What did it cost?
Oh, yeah.
They make a lot of bold story decisions with Gamora.
The Forge.
Yep.
It's just, basically, it's the scale of this movie.
It's like scale. It's that it all paid off.
Yeah,
It's hard when you have this much build up. It is hard to make it pay off satisfyingly.
Yeah,
and they did that.
Yeah, and it's just
when your hype is dialed up to an 11 and they give you a 12, it's something that you have to marvel at. Pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I just think that this was. Infinity War is a generational kind of movie. It's like this is a movie of a generation. I've said it before. All of Star Wars is still the one love of my life, the true love of my life. I believe that kids growing up today will make Marvel. Marvel is today's Star Wars. I do believe. I do believe that. It is a phenomenon, unlike any other in the film world right now. It's something we've never seen.
Exactly.
It's a serialized movie franchise.
Yeah. And
this is the series finale. Basically. Part one of it.
And I just remember all the worries we had about, who we're going to lose in Infinity War.
Now we're worried about Avengers 4. But
yeah.
Infinity War, man, there's just not enough I can talk about it,
Exactly. I mean, we had a 3-hour long conversation right at the end.
With ease. Like, it's just like and then we had to leave because it was getting late.
Exactly. And it's just, the scale, the direction,
the score, the costume design, the characters, the payoff, how they brought everybody from all these different worlds together cohesively.
Yeah.
And they paired everybody so precisely. Thor and Rocket Raccoon, maybe the strongest and weakest physical characters in the franchises. Sweet Rabbit. It's fantastic. Getting such a great performance out of Hemsworth.
Yeah.
I love it.
You
love it. We love it. It's number one. Our favorite movie of 2018 is Avengers Infinity War. And I loved filming last year. I was planning on doing a lot more on this podcast, but it took a very long time. This is by far, without a doubt, our longest podcast ever. So I'm going to call it, and we are going to get into, our favorite scores, favorite performances, moments, all next week. Because it's going to be pretty slow as it's January.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we're kicking off 2019 on the Fanema Movie Podcast. Thank you for joining me for this, G. Thank you for enjoying a year full of great films with me. And here's to another one.
I'm looking forward to 2019.
2019. 19. Yes, sir. That's G, I'm E, and we're signing off. Episode 10.